Welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr.Toni G. Alvarado. I'm so glad to have you back with us for another podcast conversation. We are wrapping up the month of October with this conversation. Our guest on today is one that you will not want to miss. She comes to us with a wealth of experience and knowledge in the area of breast health and self care. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, breast health and self care. As you know, the month of October has been deemed Breast Cancer Awareness Month and also Domestic Violence Month. And all month, we've been talking to survivors of domestic violence and survivors of breast cancer. And today we have a woman who's a specialist in the area of breast health and particularly breast cancer. She's a surgeon, she's a medical doctor, Dr. April L. Spencer. And she's going to be coming to us today with some information and knowledge that you will need, and hopefully you'll be able to pass on to others. I hope that you will share this conversation today with everybody in your family, in your network, because you need to know the type of information that Dr. April Spencer is going to be sharing with us on today. We'll be right back right after this. Well, we are here. I have Dr. April Spencer with me on today, and I'm so delighted that she had the time to come into our podcast conversation. I just love her spirit. She is a sister indeed. You just when you talk to her and when you're around her, you just get the sense and or the spirit of sisterhood that just exudes from her character and her personality, and she's just a wealth of information and knowledge, and she is very concerned about her community. This is her second time as a guest on the Harmonize Your Life podcast. She's a very, very sought after speaker, a surgeon. Let me just give you a little bit of her background. She's my homegirl, native from Chicago, raised in Atlanta, but after obtaining her Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Norfolk State University, she returned to Atlanta and attended Morehouse School of Medicine, where she obtained her Doctor of Medicine degree. After matriculation, she remained at Morehouse to complete a general surgery residency. Dr. Spencer is a board certified she is board certified by the American College of Surgeons. She completed both her internship and general surgery residency at Grady Memorial Hospital, one of the busiest level 1 trauma centers in the Southeast. Upon completion of the intensive general surgery residency, she went on to receive the prestigious Susan G. Komen sponsored breast fellowship at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. This cancer center is top rated by U.S. News and World Report. During this fellowship, Dr. Spencer was exposed to numerous advanced breast surgical oncology techniques such as oncoplastics, cutting edge cancer research, and publication opportunities. As a breast expert, she provides 100% breast services to men, women, and adolescents. Dr. Spencer is a member of the American Society of Breast Surgeons, the Society of Surgical Oncology, and the American Society of Clinical Oncology. She was recognized by her peers and was awarded the ASCO National Diversity in Oncology Award in 2009. Dr. Spencer serves on several boards, the Susan G. Komen for the Cure Greater Atlanta affiliate and the Georgia Perimeter College. She is a highly sought after speaker, author, consultant, lecturer on breast cancer and breast health, and might I add, self care in general. Will you help me welcome our sister and our friend, Dr. April L. Spencer? She is also the founder of the Global Health Breast and Wellness Center. Welcome her to our podcast conversation. Welcome, Dr. Spencer.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dr. Alvarado. It's so good to see you again. And you look absolutely amazing. I love those glasses and this top knot. That's not easy to pull off. Let me tell you, whenever I try to put this hair in a bun, I'm all over the place. And I just, have to
I've
do
been
something else.
working at it, girl. This is
But
something new I'm trying.
it is not as easy as it looks. It looks beautiful. But can't you
It,
tell your listeners it is not easy to have it
it's
like
not.
symmetrical
Oh, it
and
is
well
not.
behaved? Yeah.
It is not. It is not. This is something new I'm trying, girl. I'm going to be 60 next year. So I've been trying different things,
No
trying to see
way.
what I want to rock at 60. We'll see. That's
You
so
look
I don't know if I'm going to
amazing.
keep it, but I'm trying it.
It looks so good because you can see your beautiful face. Like it's your hair's pulled away. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I need to get some ID. You 60 years young. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. I've had a lot of people say they like it. Thank you for coming in the podcast again this year and helping us with this conversation around breast health and self care. And I know with it being the month of October, you are busy.
It has been quite the month. And here's the thing, Dr. Alvarado,
Can
coming
we,
off
you
of,
know what? Do you mind just calling me Toni? Can I call you April and you call me Toni?
I'll call you Dr.Toni if that's okay.
Okay, and I'll call you
And
Dr.
you,
April.
okay, that'll work.
I don't want us to
It's
be
such
so
a
formal,
beautiful
Dr.
name.
Alvarado and Dr. Spencer. We'll
I
just,
just
for
love
this
the way
conversation, be a little
I
bit
love the
more
way it
casual.
sounds. I love your last name. I love the way it sounds. Um, but yeah, Dr. Tony, it's just coming off of the heels of COVID. We really have everyone's undivided attention. And while we have their attention on their health, it's important that we have these conversations because, our nation was at a standstill. This pandemic almost paralyzed our country for some time. And we really are having to get back in the driver's seat and really
Mhm.
recognize how important our health is, how important prevention is, and how important it is to be proactive in your health. Because what COVID exposed is we have been engaging in sick care instead of healthcare in this country for a very long time.
Oh, yes.
And so we saw all the disparities that many of us were aware of on the medical side of things, but it really exposed this dirty wound to the rest of the world that we have got to do a better job. The disparities exist for a reason. And it's
Yeah.
not always financial, it's not always racial. There's so many other layers to this, but at least we can start having conversation. That is where change is born out of conversation. But my hope is we can move from awareness to action. Like as we continue to have conversations and raise awareness about breast cancer, just healthcare and self-care in general, that we will move from this awareness to action. We've been
Action.
aware way too long.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
to start being proactive and doing something about it. Yeah.
Wow. 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 So when you say we've been doing sick care in this country, as opposed to wellness and self-care and healthcare, what would you say? Because it's layered, like you said, it's not, the disparities are not just because of while we do know there is some systemic racism and
Sure.
classism and things of that nature, but what other things do you think contribute to the fact that we've not been concerned about our health?
Well, it's not always access. You're right. Many of us are like really busy. We get that. A lot of us
Mhm.
are really trying to hit the reset button coming off the heels of COVID. Even before COVID, a lot of us, our sponge was just full. And this was really the last straw. And it's time for us to kind of just squeeze out all the things that we've absorbed, all the stress, all the strain. And I think one of the things that increases the disparity is oftentimes when we are aware that there's something going on, we're afraid to take the next step.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my gosh, what if they find something? Or if I just ignore it, this will go away. Or I don't have time for this, you know what, right now. I've
Yeah.
got the mortgage. I'm trying to get a promotion. I want to make partner. I want to, I just got a
Mhm.
divorce. I am trying to get the children in order. Like we have so many moving parts. We don't have time to get sick. So there's something going on. A lot of times we just don't acknowledge it. In
Yeah.
fact, with this whole like ABCs of breast cancer prevention, one of the main things about awareness is being aware of your anatomy and being aware of the screening guidelines. So, in terms of anatomy, a lot of times women, when they think of a monthly breast exam or doing a breast exam, Dr. Toni, what have you heard people say when they say breast exam, or what have you thought of when you say do your monthly breast exam? What comes immediately to mind? What are you looking for? What's on the
What
forefront of your
well, the
mind?
first thing I'm looking for is a lump.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. But did you know a lot of problems that are going on in the breast, there is no lump at all. And so we are
Wow.
now encouraging women, if you see something, say something, not just if you feel a lump in your breast, because there are women that have changes in their skin. There's a type of breast cancer called inflammatory breast cancer where the breast is just red hot and swollen, and there
Uh-huh.
is no
And you
lump.
know what? One of our guests from this month, Sarah Michelle, she was on 2 weeks ago, 2, 3 weeks ago on our
Okay.
podcast. And that's what she said. She said she woke up in the middle of the night and her left
Mhm.
breast was just on fire.
Yeah, it's just red hot and swollen. There's no lump. Or women will have a nipple discharge and just say, I'm not breastfeeding, but maybe I'm just sweating. So we dismiss a lot of things. A lot of it, we feel like it'll just go away. And if we just keep on with our lives and, keep our head down and keep doing what we're doing, eventually it'll get better. But better oftentimes never comes. And so a big part of the awareness is being aware of your anatomy and not just focusing on a lump in the breast when you're looking to do a breast exam. So now a lot of the major societies, including the American Society of Breast Surgeons, the recommendation is being breast aware. Again, if you see
Breast
something, say
aware.
something, not just focusing on what you feel. So if there's something different, make sure you let your provider know right away. And I think sometimes it's important that we chat with our friend, whether it's our guy friend, our girlfriend, or our partner, our spouses, because it's almost like having an accountability partner. He's like, girl, what you think about this? I feel something under my arm. It feels kind of weird. What you think? And that person will oftentimes be your cheerleader, encourage you, or remind you, like, did you get that checked out? But a lot of times we are very conservative and evasive when it comes to our health. We really don't want to talk about it. We don't want people all up in our business. But
Okay.
oftentimes it can be very helpful to share with someone that you trust what's going on so that you can have that accountability partner. And again, that's just being aware of your anatomy, know what your normal is like. So if there's something different, see something, say something. The other important thing in terms of the A is being aware of the screening guidelines.
Okay.
Some organizations say you can get screens from 50 to age 70. Others will say starting at age 40. But most societies, including my breast clinic, recommend, I agree with the American Society of Breast Surgeons, and that is to start your annual screening mammogram at age 40.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, Dr. Toni, you have someone whose loved one was diagnosed with breast cancer
Mm.
earlier, you do it 10 years earlier than the age of diagnosis. For example, if you have someone in your family, i.e., your mom or a sister that
Okay.
was diagnosed at age 40, their daughter would begin screening at age 30. So again,
Oh,
it's 10
okay.
years prior. So just talk to the doctor and see what the recommendations are. The other thing I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, Dr. Toni, is just being aware of your family history. I mean, how many
Mm-hmm.
times have
Mm-hmm.
you or someone that you've known have had people to
Mm-hmm.
die in your family? Like, girl, they just died. They went to the hospital, they never came back. Or I don't know what auntie died from. She just got sick. She stopped eating and lost weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't really get autopsies, but we don't have conversations about what's going on. So it's important that we have these conversations with our family when someone is ill or someone has to go to the doctor about what our loved ones are being diagnosed with, because it could be a matter of life and death for us. So that's
Wow.
important.
Wow. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm so, I mean, this awareness. And I think that um the the busyness sometimes clouds our awareness a lot of times because we're so busy. And like
Mhm.
you said, I've heard women say, I don't have time to be sick.
Mhm.
I've
You should
even
have
said it.
time for it.
I don't
And
have
then
time to be sick.
a lot of times we don't talk about the risk factors because most people, when they think of risk factors for breast cancer, they immediately think of family history. And they say, well, no one in my family really has had breast cancer. I know we don't really carry the gene, so it doesn't really apply to me. But did you know that as you age, your risk factors go up because the older we are, the more likely we are to be one of those 1 in 8 women that's diagnosed with breast cancer. The other thing that we don't talk a lot about, especially in communities of color, is um, the clinical term is nulliparity, but infertility, or if you haven't had your first live childbirth by about 35, that is a
Okay.
risk factor. And
Okay.
so the reason why this is important, Dr. Tony, is because a lot of our sisters, our girlfriends, we have this ambition addiction where we are killing it in terms of our professional career, but oftentimes we forego marriage, we forego childbirth, and for
Mhm.
very good reasons. But we just need to be aware that that does increase your risk for breast cancer later. So it's not a reason to go out and just get pregnant. I don't want to get breastfed, so go get pregnant. But I used to tell the medical students all the time, don't mean you're gonna go get pregnant, but just to be aware of the risk factors.
But it is one of the risk factors, right? I hear you. And just knowing that, we need to know.
Yes. So just being aware of the risk factors, being aware that dense breast tissue can increase your risk. Family history is only 5 to 10% of new cancer diagnosis. So most of us that are diagnosed is sporadic or out of the blue and not associated with the family history. Although we need to know the family history, we need to know, if someone carries a gene, but that's only 5 to 10% of new diagnosis. So being aware of the risk factors for breast cancer. The other thing is obesity. We're all trying to get healthier.
Mhm.
I like to focus on not losing weight but gaining life. Like when my patients are exercising, I said, stop chasing the numbers, chasing the scale. How do you feel? It's
Mhm.
about wellness, not the weight. And the weight is a
Mhm.
secondary benefit if you lose weight. But I have patients that are a size 2 that have heart attacks and strokes and are diagnosed with breast cancer all day, every day. So be mindful that obesity or if you increase of your body mass index does increase our risk for breast cancer. So it's very important that we be mindful of maintaining a healthy body weight and feeling as well as we can. Um, a really interesting fact about fat: the fat mimics the chemical structure of estrogen, and many tumors, many breast cancers, actually 85% are estrogen positive, meaning they are stimulated by estrogen. And our fat cell, did you know, looks similar in the chemical structure of estrogen. So if you have a whole lot of fat, it looks like a whole lot of estrogen that can again increase your risk of breast cancer because it can act as a stimulant. So it's important that we are aware of the risk factors, not just family history, but our lifestyles, what we're eating, our body mass index, obesity, all those things matter. And I'll talk a little bit later in the conversation about the B, which is behavior. What can we do
Okay.
about these things?
Okay. Okay. Good. Let's go there. What?
Well,
Let's
let's go there.
let's go there. Let's talk about the B. This is the ABCs of breast
Yeah.
cancer prevention. So I got awareness, being aware of our anatomy, being aware of our screening guidelines and
Mhm.
family history. And I think the last thing you talked about, like, I guess that would also
Right, being
be
aware of the risks, like
risk factors. Risk.
obesity, um, lacking of childbirth,
Okay.
early period,
Mhm.
late menopause, like women that
Okay.
start menopause later have their cycles very early because they have all these years of unopposed estrogen, especially when they don't have childbirths too. So just being aware of those risk factors.
Okay.
Now, in terms of behavior, it can be very frustrating for people because they say, you know what can I do about this? I feel like I'm a freaking ticking time bomb. I can't change my race. I can't change that I'm a woman. I can't change that I'm getting older. I can't change my family history. Like, what can I do? Is there anything I could do about this to like get my power back and get back in the driver's seat? Or is this just going to happen to me over time? It's just bound to happen. And I say to women, no, we can't change those things, but there are things that we can do in terms of our behavior to be proactive to lower our risk.
Mhm.
So I mentioned maintain a healthy body weight. Now, let me just say this, Dr. Toni. when we scientists came up with the body mass index, which is primarily dictated by your height and your
Mhm.
weight. It was done on healthy medical students, which most mainly were Caucasian individuals and were very thin. And our bone structure, our body structure is a little different. So
Mhm.
oftentimes I say we can't use the body mass index as a hard and fast rule, but certainly just maintain a healthy body weight is what
Mhm.
I like to focus on instead of just
Mhm.
body mass index. Because it's
Mhm.
kind of, there's some inherent bias with the way the body mass index was designed.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so, in terms of being proactive, people want to know, like, do I have to work out every day? No, you set realistic goals. So, what the data show is that 30 minutes of physical activity can reduce your risk of breast cancer by almost 40%. Dr. Tony,
Mhm.
that's better than some chemotherapy that we have that's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So, when
Yeah.
you think of physical activity, what do you think of, or what do most people think of when you say you need to be more active?
Well, most people think of walking, running, or working out in the gym with weights, riding
Yeah.
a bike, swimming.
Mhm.
Anything to me, I think of anything where I'm moving my body, where my heart rate is being stretched.
You're absolutely right. But most people don't think that way. Most people, when you hear you need to be more active, they automatically think exercise. And that's
Okay.
not fun for a lot of people. I know it's not fun for me. So I have to trick my body to exercise. So you have to do things that
Unless you like
you
Dr. Tony, who's just gotten really like addicted to it. I'm addicted.
that's good. I'm addicted to the feeling. Like I love the way it makes me feel.
Yeah,
Like when I
yeah.
exercise, I
Yeah,
do it
that's
to have
true.
more energy because my day
Uh-huh.
is so full. But I always tell patients, like you just mentioned, activity or exercises wherever you are. So it's walking, it could be dancing, it could be sex, it could be hiking. I like to ski. It could be,
Mhm.
skiing, ice skating, bowling. A lot of women like line dancing. And
Move your
so as
body.
long
I
as
I
you're,
joined the jump rope group.
yeah, oh, okay.
I joined the 40 plus jump rope.
Let me find out. Those
The
Chicago roots
the
coming
40
out
plus
to like
double
double
dutch club.
dutch.
I'm gonna send you an invitation to our next jump.
I would love that. I would love that. It was so funny. I told this one patient, she need to be more active, and I said, exercise is activities wherever you are, and I called it out just like I just did. I said, that mean you have to be on a treadmill. You could be in the bed having sex. Her husband was like, "Don't be putting all that pressure on me, Dr. Spencer. 30 minutes every day." I said, "Look, Mister, I'm just putting it out there. Whatever you need to do to stay healthy, but
Move
it
your
doesn't have
body.
to be in the gym." He was over me right there. Um, so yes, so in terms of behavior, just try to stay active. The other part of
Mhm,
behavior is just making sure that we're mindful of our culinary choices in terms of
mhm,
limiting the alcohol intake.
mhm,
There are benefits, of course, to wines, especially red wines, but
mhm,
there's been some data to show that alcohol over more than 2 glasses per day can increase your risk of breast cancer. So yeah, just be
mhm,
mindful of just being more moderate.
mhm,
People oftentimes ask me, like, do I need to become a vegetarian, a pescatarian?
mhm,
What can I eat? What type of diet? I said, anything with the word diet is not a good thing. We're
mhm,
going to
mhm,
focus on adding things to your
mhm,
culinary palate, not taking things away.
mhm,
So add more fresh fruits and vegetables,
mhm,
add more
mhm,
healthy fat, like what we
mhm,
see in avocados, unsaturated fats that we find
mhm,
in nuts and olive oils. There was an interesting study, Dr. Tony. It was actually funded by Bill and Belinda Gates, but the World Health Organization took out the study. We were trying to figure out, what are people doing that live in blue zones? Now, blue zones are the areas in the world where people live to be 100 or over,
okay,
centurions.
okay,
So, what is it that they're eating? Because who doesn't want to live to be 100 if you can be 100 and be healthy? And what we found was really not what we expected. We thought that perhaps they didn't eat meat at all, they didn't eat French fries, they didn't drink at all. They just had this dull life of eating grains and beans. And that's not the case. What we found is that, yes, they had their wines and yes, they had their meats, but the thing that they did was they added lots of fresh fruits and vegetables to their routine, to their culinary choices. So there wasn't what they weren't eating, is what they were eating,
Were
what
eating.
they're adding.
That's a
So
different way of looking at it because
it
oftentimes
is.
when we talk about healthy eating, we go right to what we should take away rather
Hmm.
than what we should add. I
And
love
that's
that.
not a realistic goal. Like you start
Mhm.
taking things away, people will protest. Like I'm gonna have my French fries today, you know. I have my oxtails. That's my guilty pleasure. I love French fries. I love oxtails. Not together, but
I'm with you on the French
uh,
fries. I'm
so
with you there.
no, so I'm not gonna take away your steak or your fries because quite frankly, I have patients all the time, Dr. Tony, that run marathons
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are vegetarian, pescatarian, and they still get breast cancer. So it's really
yeah.
adding healthy culinary choices of fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you do decide to eat meat, and I'm a carnivore, I eat meat, but make sure it's locally sourced, whatever you do, because you have to remember that steak that you're eating, that cow may be in Argentina versus Colorado or Arkansas. So if you can get something where you live, where
Mhm.
there's local farmers, and that seems like a tall order, but you should be surprised. There are a lot of farmers markets that go on almost year round where you can get your fresh fruits and vegetables that were grown right in your state. It may not be in your city, but in your state, so
Oh,
that you know that these things were harvested and picked right in your backyard and not far from it, versus having to get on a boat and on a train and then frozen and unthawed and refrozen and then put on a truck and then taken to you, and it was butchered maybe 6 months ago. You're just now eating it, or you're just now consuming it. So does that make sense? It's more
that makes
so,
a lot of sense.
yeah. And food is meant to spoil. So get organic under certain circumstances. Because people ask me this all the time, like, do I need all organic? When it comes to fruits and vegetables, if it has a peel, it doesn't need to be organic because
Mhm.
you're not eating the peel per se. For
Mm.
example, you don't need organic avocados. You're
No.
not eating the peel. Don't waste your money getting that. But if it's berries like strawberries and blueberries, there's no peel. You're going to eat the flesh. There's a lot of pesticides that go on them to prevent bugs from consuming them before they can be picked. Those, I think, it would be more helpful
Okay.
to consider doing organic for fruits and vegetables that have skin exposed that you will be consuming.
Okay.
You
That
don't need
you
organic oranges.
right. You're
You're
not
not eating the peel.
Mhm. I
So you just have to be mindful of that, because I think it was like kind of a fad, everything organic. No,
mhm,
you have to try
mhm,
to be um, more mindful with your money and more mindful
mhm.
with the consumer choices. But people have to
Because
be
that's what
educated.
some of the pushback with, eating organic or eating healthy is it costs more.
Well, I say either pay on the front end or the back end,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
when you become unhealthy, it's like a slippery slope in terms of the medications. You need medication to pick you up, you need
Yeah.
medications to bring you
It's
down, and
pay me
keep
now or pay me
everything
later.
normalized, and
Mhm,
medications to counteract the side
mhm,
effects.
mhm, mhm.
But there is a way to eat, in a healthy fashion where it can be cost conservative. I do this meatless Monday. I was doing it all year, and I usually take a break in the summer, so I'm going to get back to it. But I do this meatless Monday where I do these like somewhat live videos and just show people how you can stretch the things that you buy. And even if you're deciding to eat meat, just every day except for one day, that's a realistic goal. You can just have one day where you
Mm.
try to be free of meat. That is a very realistic goal. So we usually do it in my household on Monday. Um, Now today is Taco Tuesday. So what I did was I bought a whole chicken, but I cut the chicken up so they could put on taco. But the chicken that's left over will be for chicken salad,
Okay.
and 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 it's a whole chicken, in a sense that it's not like parts from multiple different chickens in different phases of growth. Like when you get, like, say for example, broccoli, a lot of times people like to get the broccoli florets. Try to get the whole broccoli if you can, because it's single source. It came from one plant because it's whole. Does that
That makes a
register?
lot of sense.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
If you get a watermelon, some people get slices. Get the whole thing when you can and slice it up yourself, because it's that one watermelon versus you don't know if they sliced one and sliced the other, and it's coming from all over the place. So just be mindful of how it's consumed. Now, people ask what their culinary choice is. Is there one type of food that's healthier than others? In terms of vegetables, there's a lot of data that show cruciferous vegetables are healthier for us in terms of reducing our risk of breast cancer. Cruciferous vegetables are things like broccoli and cauliflower.
Hmm.
So, if you want to be more specific, those have been known to be very beneficial for breast health
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
Um, Lastly, in terms of color choice, I get a lot of questions about vitamins. Everyone's taking multivitamins, and
Mhm.
that really increased during COVID because people were trying to avoid getting sick. They were taking vitamin C, and they were,
Mhm.
really consuming various types of vitamins. So, what the research shows is there is an association between vitamin D deficiency
Mhm.
and an increased risk of breast cancer.
Mhm.
We're not sure why that is, Dr. Tony. So it's not like, okay, if you're vitamin D deficient, you're going to get breast cancer. No, we just know there is an association that
Okay.
women that are found to have breast cancer, they oftentimes will have low vitamin D deficiency. So make sure our ladies and gentlemen know what their baseline vitamin D levels are. Usually you can get that from your primary care where they can just test your
Mhm.
vitamin D and make sure that you are getting lots of sunlight, because
Mhm.
although I would like for patients to get vitamin D from their food, most people just take a supplement. But if you don't get sun, the vitamin D is not activated. It's activated by sunlight. We are designed so beautifully where our
Yeah.
vitamin D is stored under the surface of our skin. But if
Mhm.
we don't go outside, you can take vitamins all day and it's not going to
It's not gonna
be of
help.
any
Mhm.
benefit whatsoever.
Okay. Wow.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you got the A's, the B, and the C's. So
Mhm.
what's the C?
So the C is consumer choices. So I talked about
Okay.
the culinary choices, but in
Mhm.
terms of consumer choices, there are a lot of carcinogens in our beauty and healthcare products. There
Okay.
are a lot of neighborhoods and cities that are cancer hotspots.
Okay.
So if you're thinking about buying a home, or if you're not buying a home but thinking about relocating or
Mhm.
moving, every state and city are required by the CDC to have a report, an annual report. And in
Mhm.
this annual health report, it includes everything from the number of homicides, suicides, diabetes, and even cancers in particular areas.
Okay.
So you want to be mindful of the power lines in the area. You want to be mindful of the cancer rate in the area. You want to be mindful of if there are any plants, any power plants, any chemical processing plants
Mhm.
that are nearby.
Mhm.
Um, those things really do matter. A lot of times we pick a place to live based on the convenience to our home or to our school or
Mhm.
to our loved ones, or it may
Mhm.
just be where your family has always lived. One of the questions I asked Dr. Tony of my patients, where they say, we have so many people in my family got cancer. I got breast cancer, and my
Mhm.
dad had lung
Mhm.
cancer, and my mom got ovarian cancer. And the first question I asked is, did they stay in the same household? Did they live in the same community? Did they live in the same city? Because sometimes there can be an association between your zip code and your cancer risk. So that is a consumer choice that we oftentimes don't think of, but I really want your viewers to be mindful of that. In terms of consumer choices and of our skincare products, like our skin is our biggest organ. We hadn't really talked a lot about this, but I do have a makeup and skincare line called Tailor Made. It's named
Okay.
after my daughter. And what inspired me to start it was so many women would come to me after diagnosis of breast cancer or diagnosis of a friend and say, what can I do to just be healthier? Even in terms of my makeup and my beauty regimen, like relaxers and deodorants.
Yeah.
I feel
Mhm.
like I'm potentially exposing myself to all these things. And I always say, just read the labels. Many of the things you can't hardly pronounce, even spell. But I will tell you, I didn't go very far in the spelling bee. That was not my thing. But you want to be very mindful of parabens and phthalates. Those are known to be carcinogenic. Also, BPA. BPA is very commonly placed in plastic. But did you know that there was a new study? We saw it in California because they're very proactive in terms of the communities to try to avoid or reduce the toxins in
Mhm.
California. But it showed that high levels of BPA are in our bras that we exercise in, because they put BPA
Oh,
in the spandex to help make it stretchy. And many women, after we exercise, we keep our exercise gear on all day, because a lot of it is athleisure. You can wear it out. I've done it all the time. In fact, I had that on before I threw this dress on for this
okay,
podcast. I got gone to the
okay.
gym, had stuff to do, and I kept my gym clothes on almost all day. So we just have to be mindful that after we work out, take the gym clothes off,
Yeah.
because until we have more clear information about what's going on with this BPA and how it
Mhm.
is increased in our workout clothes, that we have to again be mindful of the consumer choices. I'm not suggesting that we need to avoid our our workout gear that has
Yeah.
spandex in it, but just know the BPA is in it. And the longer you're in it, you could potentially increase your risk. So when you work out, just try to make an effort to change your clothes,
Mhm.
come
Mhm.
out of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm hoping that's helpful in terms of the consumer choices. Just people can be mindful of when they're purchasing things, whether it's home or hot dog. Be mindful of those carcinogens. Uh,
Wow, wow. So the ABCs of breast cancer prevention, you gave us so many things to think about. I took a ton of notes. I mean, a ton of notes, but overall I heard awareness, behavior, and then consumer choices. And
yes.
so all of those things that fall up under those things. You said something, I was reading an article. Dr. April, and you said every minute that I get, this is an article you wrote last year in 2021. Every minute I get with my patients, I spend in pure awe of them. And you said I have a front row seat to witness the most amazing stories unfold every single day. Um, and you say to see the growth of my patients, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally, watching them reclaim their power from breast cancer. You said it never gets old. So how do women reclaim their power? I know by doing these ABCs,
Hmm.
but once a person has been diagnosed with breast cancer, how do they regain or reclaim their power?
They first have to not feel like they've done something wrong or their body has betrayed them in some way. Because a
Oh,
lot of times we will feel victimized. So many of us have micro and macro stresses every day, whether it's at work or in our homes. It's domestic violence month. We talk about, violence in the workplace, but also micro and macro aggression in the workplace. So our daily existence is stressful, and we feel that we are victimized every time you turn around. And then someone gets
mhm.
breast cancer. Like, God damn it, I just can't get a break.
Yeah.
And why is this happening to me? And so I first like to encourage women to know there's nothing that you've done wrong, with your body betraying you. We make cancer cells every day, but our body's immune system is not just designed to fight off the cold or COVID. It's designed to fight off cancer. Our immune system is responsible for doing two things when it comes to cancer. Number one, recognizing the cancer cell. Number two, destroying it. So a better question is, why wasn't your immune system functioning as well as it should?
Mm,
To recognize and destroy the cancer cells that we make every day. So after you understand that from a clinical standpoint, it's nothing you did wrong, but you have to figure out, what can I do that can get me back in the driver's seat? How can I keep my immune system strong? A big part of that is self-care, because
mm,
our immune system is compromised when we are not taking care of ourselves, because the immune system is not considered a priority. And so our body will go into fight or flight mode, where most of all of the body's resources, all of its energy will go to fighting or fleeing. And so the main thing is, number one, women have got to start setting boundaries. So you
mm,
need to have one day a month just to rest, relax, and recharge your batteries. Because
mm,
people are very disrespectful of your time. And you'd be so
mhm,
surprised how
mhm,
individuals will figure out, especially adults, how to take care of things when you just simply focus on you. That's your day to say no. That's your day
mhm,
to
mhm.
pour inward. Self care is not always just hair, nails, and trips. Like,
No.
it has to be a daily reminder, be very deliberate, put it on your calendar, right? as you would your hair appointment, your nail appointment. This is my me day. My day is on the 12th. And
Yeah.
so you've got to find a day that makes sense, but you've got to make setting boundaries for your mental health to protect your peace of priority.
Yeah. My day is on Mondays. On Mondays, it's my me day. It's
Mhm.
my day to just shut down, do and focus on me. So usually if I'm going to do a doctor's appointment, if I'm seeing my therapist, if I'm going to see my massage, if I'm getting a massage, which I did yesterday, and then went to see my chiropractor, I
Yeah.
finally got that rhythm going because my
Mm.
chiropractor told me that I should go get my massage before I come see her because
Oh.
then she can do a better adjustment because my muscles
Mhm.
have already been relaxed from the massage.
Mhm.
So now I stack those on the same day and I go
Mhm.
once a month. So I take Monday as the day to do all of those things that are just for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
The other thing that's really important, Dr. Tony, is allowing the immune system to work best, and it does its best work at night. So
Okay.
we have these surges of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, but our immune system works best at night. And we have so much research to show people that work the night shift or the third shift tend to have a higher rate of cancers, because if you're up and you're not
Mm.
resting and you're not sleeping, but rest and sleep are different. Rest is more so for the mind, sleep is for the body. But if you're up and your mind is just going a mile a minute, I've done it before where I'm like, okay, I gotta do this tomorrow, make sure everything's lined up next month. Okay, this is what I have going on next quarter. This is what I need to do next year. You've just got to make sure at night you take a warm bath, make sure that you are setting yourself up for not just sleep, but rest. Disconnect from the TV, phones, tablets, computer about 30 minutes before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of research that have shown that white light not only increases complication from diabetes, but it also increases obesity,
Mhm.
and it interrupts our sleep pattern. Our immune system needs that to work, to do its best work, i.e., fight off cancer cells. Super important. The
Wow.
other thing is our stress level. That's
Uh-huh.
how we get our power back. You got to get it down. You got to say no more and realize that no is a complete sentence.
Mhm.
Not no, I cannot do that because I have a meeting next week, or I can't pick you up because I have to pick up my children from carpool. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that. Leave it there, because it's the explaining that increases our anxiety, our cortisol, and
Oh,
that cortisol stores itself in the belly, hips, and lower back, and that is what contributes to more stress. And then lastly, again, we just have to try to be more active. There's so much research to show women that have been diagnosed with breast cancer, when they work out, again, wherever you are, that they have a better outcome, and those that don't actually do worse during their therapy when they're not being physically active. um, I have to share, you remember this song? I think it was by Donna McClurkin. It's like, when you've done all you can do, you just
mm,
stand.
mhm.
And as over time and patients sharing their stories with me, I realized that we don't always have to be superwoman. We don't. It may not always be wise to stand. Sometimes we have to sit or lay. You don't always have to stand. And that comes with wisdom. That's not being weak. I mean, think about it, even Jesus had 12 disciples. If you believe that, and he could walk on water. All right, it's a typical dude. He's got work miracles. Do you have like an entourage? Seriously? And so he got it right. And as women, we have to do the same thing. I'm like, Jesus were a woman. There would never been 12 disciples, because we would try to walk on water, change the water to wine, and going up 5,000. Okay, what else is on my schedule? But men get it right, and that they delegate. And so that is the last thing I want to share with women to get their power back. You've got to start delegating. That is a sign of wisdom, not weakness. So
Get your power
sometimes you've
back.
got to ask others to do things. You don't always have to be all things to all people at all times.
Yeah. You preaching. You are singing my song and preaching my message. I'm telling you. That's why I started this podcast, because I want to be able to empower women to take their power back on and to take ownership of their life, take ownership of their health, ownership of our health, our wellness, our
Especially our
character.
mental health. Our
Yes,
mental health, because Dr.
yes.
Tony, it's not just a physical cancer. Like, cancer itself is just a physical manifestation of our wellness being off. We are unwell. And so we have to understand that people can be cancerous, relationships can be cancerous, jobs Our work environment can be cancerous. Our careers can be cancerous. Our friends and family can be cancerous, because a cancer is just anything that doesn't belong in our life and in our bodies and in our environment, and takes over the host until it kills it. Whether it kills your spirit or kills you physically, it is a cancer. And so I don't want people to have to get to my operating room before they realize that they've got to cut out things that aren't right, cut out things in their lives that's preventing them from being their best self, from getting back in the driver's seat. By the time you see me, we there's a different conversation that we're having. I want you to get to a point where you don't have to see me. We're just chatting for cocktails and conversation, not surgical planning. And
Mhm.
so that's why I'm so glad you started this podcast and you've been consistent. I'm so proud of you to just be able to have the sustainability, because you've made it a priority. What inspired you to start this podcast?
Well, actually, it was my own journey with
Mhm,
self-care, health, and wellness. When I started on this journey actually 22 or 23 years ago on just this
mhm,
whole self-care journey. But through
mhm.
the years, and my principal work is that I'm a pastor. But through the years, what I've learned about myself, my whole theology, I've developed a whole theology of self-care. When I look at the scriptures, when I read the Bible, I see God's desire is for us to be in health and to prosper, even as our
Absolutely.
soul prosper.
Yeah.
That's just not a scripture to say, but that includes every area of our lives. And being
Mhm,
a pastor, I've seen a lot, and I've buried people that I think died too soon, and
mhm.
I don't want to preach your funeral before your time.
Yeah.
I don't, I want, and I know life and death ultimately is God, but I do believe that we can shorten our lifespan if we don't take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And Dr. Miles Monroe said that one of the richest places in the planet is the cemetery, the graveyard, and because so many people die with books in them, with vision in them, with ministry in them that they never fulfill. And I think a lot of it is because we have not taken proper care of ourselves, and we die prematurely. So
Mhm.
because that's been a part of my message and my own personal value, in 2018, I wrote the book, Harmonize Your Life. I chunked the idea of balance, right? Because to me, balance is it's not sustainable.
It is not.
It's
It
not
is not.
sustainable. So I for the word harmony, and how do you
Mhm.
make it all fit? And harmony means that there's sometimes when I may have more of this and less of that, depending. I'm listening to my body, listening to what God is
Mhm.
saying, watching and seeing what's needed right now for my
What is
life.
needed, right?
And
Yeah.
so I wrote the book, and then I started a retreat for women around this whole self-care, health, and wellness. And so
Mhm.
my children were like, Mom, you need to do a podcast. And so I was like, you sure? Yeah, Mom telling you should do a podcast. So in 2020, Dr. April, I set out to start the podcast. I started planning for it at the end of 2019.
I'm so glad you did.
And I did not know I had my first episode March 2nd, 2020. You know what happened that
Oh,
month?
I know what happened that month. I mean, the whole
That
country
month was
shut
when we got
down.
shut down.
Me
That
too.
month.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I know that this was the timing of God
Yeah. It was
because
divinely designed. And see, God won't put a work in you that he won't finish. But you have to have faith, and faith without works is dead. And you put in the work. You have faith that you could do the podcast, and he planted that seed in you. You decided you were going to do it, and you executed on it, and you're helping so many women and men to just add this harmony to their lives. I mean, that's more obtainable, I think. I love the way you reframe the messaging so that
yeah,
people can know that it is an obtainable, achievable goal.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so glad you have it. And I'm so glad to have been a
I'm glad
guest
you're a part of
again.
my community. I'm glad you're a part of this podcast community. And I'm just excited about our connection and the work that you are doing is saving lives. And not just in the sense of breast cancer, prevention or surgeries, but just the information. We perish. The Bible says we perish for the lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
And the information that you are giving, even on this podcast, is saving lives. And what I like is that you're focusing on breast cancer prevention. And
Mhm.
preventative care is always better than sick care or restoration care.
Yeah.
It's better if we can prevent from getting sick. Then it's better. Of course, I believe in the power of God to heal, but wouldn't it be better if I didn't get sick at all?
Mhm. Yes.
And so that's what I love about what you're focused on is
Well, thank
you
you. It's
said I
my
want to work myself out of a job. I don't want you to have
listen.
to come see me.
I would love. Listen, I'm going on year 20 of next will be year 20 for me in the surgical space, and I would want nothing more to just be lying on some beach in the south of France or southern Italy instead of having to do surgery. But honestly, I love, 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 love what I do, and I thank God for the opportunity to service people in this capacity, and I take it very seriously. But I'm hopeful that our next generation will, you know, work on cures, but our present generation will be more deliberate about being proactive regarding their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health so that we can,
Yeah,
not have to have these treatments. And so we can lower, breast cancer. That's the goal. Raise awareness, but I want to raise the action even more. And I
yeah.
think your
I
podcast
love you.
certainly put people in motion to get back in the driver's seat of their health, raising the action for
Yeah.
sure.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
helping us raise the action on this podcast. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go in just a minute because I know you have another panel that you're gonna be speaking on in a few minutes, and I don't want to
Mhm.
keep you beyond the time that you are committed to be with us. But I just want our audience to know we are talking to Dr. April Spencer. She is the founder of the Global Breast Health and Wellness Center. You can find Dr. April Spencer at draprilspencer.com. You can also find her on Facebook at April Spencer. And I like the way you put that on Facebook with in parentheses, Dr. Doctor April Spencer, because there's a lot of April Spencers out there, but let's make sure we get the right one this time.
That's
All
right.
right. And then on Instagram, you can find her at Dr. April Spencer and also on Twitter at Dr. April Spencer. I think Instagram is Dr. period April
It's
Spencer.
it's that one
Is that
got
right?
hacked. So it's still Dr. April Spencer, but it's no dot. My little
No dot. You want me?
IG got
Okay.
hacked
I'll
last
fix
year.
that. That one got
So
hacked.
take the dot out.
These hackers work overtime, don't they?
They do. It's so bizarre. So I need
Okay.
your viewers, to help increase my followers. I have to get some more followers back because it wiped out everything. So starting from ground zero, which is
Oh no, we're
exciting.
gonna fix
It
that.
can be
I
frustrating
need
too,
all
but
of our
it's
viewers
exciting.
to go and follow her on Instagram. I'm going to go and follow you at your new one, and we will encourage everyone. We'll put your handles in. We'll tag you when
Okay.
we post the this episode. We'll tag
Wonderful.
you, and
And let me
we'll
tell
also
you,
make
you
sure.
have you have worked this podcast, honey. I see the name streaming at the bottom, all the pertinent information. Click, click, click. So I don't know who has given you a tutorial. Your children have done a great job.
My
I'm
children
sure
and
they're
my husband. I
so
have to
well
thank
done.
him. I must thank my husband. He built my studio. My husband built my studio, and he actually has a show he does, a theological discussion. And so I really learned a lot how to work this platform, StreamYard, through him. And
Oh,
my
good.
children and my husband, my daughter-in-law, I mean, it's a whole family affair.
I love it. That's how it should be. That's
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
should
yeah.
be.
It's a whole family affair. So I am so grateful. I do want to let everyone know not only can you find Dr. April Spencer, but you can also find this podcast. You can go to my website at drtonialvarado.com. And there is a link there to my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this podcast and not on my YouTube channel, Go there, subscribe to my channel, share these conversations. These conversations are saving lives. We are moving just away from just awareness to action. You heard Dr. Spencer. She's raising our action meter, not just our awareness meter, but
That's
our
right.
action meter. And so when you share these podcast conversations, you are helping people take action and take ownership and get their power back. We can't take our power back from cancer and every other disease known to man. And so let's do that. Go to our podcast, go to my website, go to my YouTube channel. You can also find us on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts, Anchor podcast, Apple, Google, and Spotify. Go there and be a part of our self-care, health, and wellness community. Ladies, join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. That's the last thing I'm going to say. Join the network. When you join the network, you are a part of a community of women. And you heard Dr. Spencer say today, we need to empower our community. And that's what we do in the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. So I want to invite every woman that's watching and listening to us to go to my website and join the Self-Care Network so that you can be a part of a community of women like yourself, like myself, like Dr. April Spencer, who are concerned about self-care, not only for us, but for each other. All right, Dr. Spencer, thank you so much, Dr. April Spencer, for being with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And for those viewers that have been diagnosed with breast cancer, I know we spoke a lot about prevention. I do want to encourage those individuals that we are going to treat it, beat it, and move on. And we can do that together. Follow Dr. Toni. She'll give you all the tips that you need to get over this bump in the road. Just a bump in the breast is just like a bump in the road. We go over it, we go under it, we get to the other side. And I think it is an invaluable tool by reaching out and following Dr. Toni so she can get you back on track with your health, your breast health to your best health. That's what it's all about.
All right. Your breast health to your best health. All right. I love it. We'll see you all next week. This is the final episode for the month of October. We've been talking to survivors of domestic violence and breast cancer. And what a wonderful way to end our month with this empowerment, this information that is saving lives, techniques and strategies for self-care, health and wellness, and breast health and breast cancer prevention. All right, the ABCs of breast cancer prevention. Share it with everybody that you know. And we'll see you next week on the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self-Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, yours truly, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. See you soon. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado. I am so delighted about bringing the Harmonize Your Life podcast to you. Would you do me a favor? If you are enjoying this podcast, would you email me at hello@drtonialvarado.com? I want to hear from you. I want your feedback. I want to know if there are any other topics that you are interested in as it relates to wellness, self-care, nutrition, or just overall bringing harmony into your life. Email me, contact me at hello@drtonialvarado.com.